What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is Ryan Adanda here with our you already know who, Dr. David Maloney, and my man. We already done a video together about what 4 months ago?
Is it 4 months?
5 months ago?
Could well be.
Yeah.
Well be. I'm here for the 1,000 subscriber landmark. That's what I'm waiting for.
Yes. Yes. So what he's talking about is my 1,000 subscriber landmark, you guys, and yeah, and not only that, but here, hold up. I didn't even introduce him properly, right? So all right, he literally just told me no Irish jokes, even though he's playing, but you already know who he is.
Deeply offended for any Irish jokes.
So who are you? What's your other name? What's your alias?
Alias? Well, Dr. David Maloney is the official name, I guess. That's my channel too. Dr. David Maloney Psychotherapy is my channel, my YouTube channel.
Okay, that's his YouTube channel, you guys. But what he's trying to say is he's the lucky charm of Paraguay. You know what I mean? So we already established that in the last video. But anyways, you guys. So no, we're all right. We're gonna have some real conversations today about some real topics, and yeah. So just a little bit of a breakdown of the last video that we did. We talked about if you're stuck, right? And we're gonna dive into a little bit of that today. Right, but we talked about, like, you know, if you're feeling stuck, and also about men moving abroad, but people moving abroad also, right? You know, the reason that we talk about men moving abroad is because we can relate the best on a personal level. He can on a professional level with a lot more people than I can, right? But you know, that's what we talked about last time in our last video. I'm gonna be sure to link it above, you guys. But anyway, so this conversation. We're just gonna kind of also have a free flow. So, you know, we have some ideas in mind, but we're just gonna see where it takes us. One of the first things that we kind of wanted to touch on is similar to the first topic that we did in the last video, but you know, just to expand on that, you know, I brought up in past videos of mine, like, what do you do when you start feeling burnout? Right? Whether you're in a more quote unquote normal situation, 9-to-5 situation, or even if you're in like a, you know, he's a YouTuber, I'm a YouTuber. What if you start feeling like you might be losing your creative edge, or just the willpower to do certain videos, or I don't know, or you might be receiving a lot of feedback that's like, God, trying to steer you different ways, etc. How do you get beyond that, right? And my man's a professional here. I'm not. I'm just a ridiculous human being out here. But
I'm a ridiculous human being also.
Okay. All right. He admits it. All right. The lucky charm admits it. Okay. Anyways, but seriously though, we're gonna touch on this. So anyways, if you want to learn about his fuller story, go back to our first video. He'll talk a little bit more about his life. But now we're just gonna dive right into this. What do you feel that people should do about burnout?
Well, that's a good question. I'll say this, right, to start off with. I think burnout is like a psychological term. Like it's like a real thing that people get called burnout. I've only seen real, legitimate burnout in a handful of people, and I've worked with probably over, I don't know how many thousands of people. I've done thousands of therapy sessions with people at this point. And isn't that interesting, right? That I've only seen like a handful of legitimate, serious burnout. If it gets to that point, it is very, very difficult it's a long, kind of a slow process to recover from, because the person's nervous system has basically said, I'm done with this. I'm not going to do anymore. So it's quite a significant thing if it happens to somebody. What I see much more commonly than that is people who are stuck. They're struggling with taking action on things, or they're feeling indecisive. But it is usually because they're overwhelmed. And it's usually because they put too much pressure on themselves. And that's the thing that I see a lot. But this is the thing, right? In our culture, you go on YouTube to find out, like, why am I struggling? Why am I stuck? Right? A lot of it is going to be stuff like, get organized, make a plan, do more, right? Push yourself. Let's get motivated here. My theory is that it's not about a lack of motivation. right? So that's the first thing. I think most people are motivated. Most people know that's a goal. I would like to do that goal in my life. Problem is there are blocks that get in the way of people expressing their full potential. So it's not about getting motivated. It's about removing those blocks that are in the way. Again, one of those blocks is the tendency to put too much pressure on ourselves, or the tendency to have too high of expectations on ourselves. Does that resonate with you at all? Because that resonated with me. And I'll be honest, okay, I studied psychology and psychotherapy for years, right? But most of the insights that I had, I wrote a book on this. It's called Procrastination Decoded. But most of my insights on this came through my personal life, because there was a period when I was in my late 20s when I was stuck. I wasn't taking any action. And it was actually a really difficult thing, because there's a period in my life when I was really significant that I should be taking action. You know, like when you get to your late 20s and it's like, well, yeah, we're kind of expecting you to do something here now. Just and I was like, okay, struggling here. This isn't working. And so I kind of had to, maybe it's because I was studying psychology and therapy and stuff that I was like, well, shouldn't I use my psychology to kind of figure out what's going on here? And I honestly think I did find out what was going on with myself. And thankfully, what I was able to do was find insights, find new strategies that didn't involve bullying myself or trying to plan my way into more action. It wasn't about that. It was actually the opposite of that. And we'll talk about that maybe. But just to end this first question, the problem isn't that there's something wrong with you. That's usually what people feel. That there's something is wrong with me. I'm not doing these things that I kind of know mentally that I should be doing. It's you were given wrong information. You were given wrong strategies that don't actually work. And if I could sum it up, and this might be a little bit controversial, it's the Andrew Tate approach to personal productivity that doesn't work for most people. You know what I mean by that? It's like the get off your lazy ass and do more.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
Some people that can be helpful for. And I think maybe young guys, really young guys, like maybe 16, 17-year-olds or something, that can be helpful. But in my experience, that is not useful information for most men. Mm-hmm. And I think there are alternatives that you can explore that will be much more beneficial. I'm not having to go with Andrew Tate. I think he's fascinating. But I wouldn't say that strategy should be applied equally to everybody. And if you've done that before and it hasn't worked for you, it's not necessarily because there's something wrong with you. It's because that strategy might not work for you. So I would leave it at that. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, what's really interesting, I had a conversation with Javier, another fellow adoptee, right? From here in Paraguay. You know, in fact, here, I'm gonna move on to some, I'll come back to that. But, you know, in general, this is a continuation of our first conversation, right? So there's a lot of similar themes, but yeah, I mean, the last thing, I'm saying a lot of nothing, but the last thing that you were saying is that certain advice is not for everybody, right? And one thing that I say on my channel is that if you improve your environment, which is us moving to another country, you can thrive. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, that's
definitely a part of it.
It's not the solution to all your issues.
It's a big part of it. You're right. That's true.
You know, and in fact, I mean, even myself, you know, I look at myself 1 year ago from when I started some of my first videos, what I looked like physically, right? And I'm certainly no, Cristiano Ronaldo and none of that, but like, you know, I feel a lot better. I'm doing a lot better. I can attract more women. You know what I mean? I've built a lot of confidence these last 7 months that I've been here. You know, but I guess going back to the burnout question, in general.
Well, can I comment on something you just said there?
Sure.
I think it's relevant,
sure.
Right? Because
let me apologize because I mean you said a lot and I'm like, oh my god, I'm like
no, dude,
I'm scatterbrained a little bit because
No.
you said so many good things. I don't know really where to start.
no,
This is what happens when you talk to two professionals. You know what I mean? And they say so many fucking amazing points. I should be honestly taking notes right now, but I don't know where to
I
start.
think he said something really interesting,
Okay,
and it's
okay.
about the environment.
Okay,
that we're in.
okay.
And
Yeah.
'cause I've seen that in therapy a lot. In therapy, it's actually the first place you start, because if you're in an environment that is not supportive, that is bringing you down.
Yeah.
And I'll be working with
I
somebody,
was in that environment,
and I work
which
with
is the
many
United
people.
States of America.
Right, yeah, and I've worked with people who are in even smaller than that. So that's like the global environment is the United States for you, right? It can be a family unit that's not supportive.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
even if we take away the not supportive part, even if we just say they don't understand you, like it's not that people like don't support me or they might support me a little bit, but like even if they don't try to understand you a little bit, it can be, I don't know, I guess a little bit frustrating. And
Well, the United States, right, is like a very successful country, but it is definitely, there is that thing about success. Success is like it's almost like a religion in the United States. You know, the whole thing about like who are the royalty in the United States? There's no royal family in the United States. Royalty in America are celebrities. Celebrities are successful. Celebrities have money, they have wealth, they have notoriety, and it's about accomplishment in the United States. And that can be there can be problems with that, because if that's the goal, you know, that's the whole value system you base yourself around, there will be that thing about pushing yourself at all costs. And I think a lot of people are in that environment, and it's about do more, get more, accomplish more all the time. And I think, you know, maybe the burnout thing that we were talking about before, I think that's not ideal for human flourishing. And I'm not judgmental about it. I'm not like anti-America or something, right? I think the United States is a beautiful place, a fascinating place, and amazing people. And it's done a lot for the world. But I think there is not, some people need to understand that context, that to be able to bring awareness to the fact that maybe I'm being influenced by this thing about success, drive all the time. And should that be the highest value in my own life? And if it is, how is it working for me? Because I think there are other things to life that are more important than just having external success in life. And if that's, you know, in my experience, if that's held as the highest value for a person, you know, money, accomplishment, notoriety, pat on the back, good for you, you know, getting all the plaudits from people, external validation. The problem with that is that it's not coming from inside. It's not coming from what is it that I really value? What's important to me in life?
So, okay. So, I know you say that, right? But on my end, right, so in my case, I also kind of, and I don't know what your response is going to be to this, but in my case, right, I'm in Paraguay. I have a lot of friends and family back home. I also kind of don't want to reach out to them until I reach certain levels.
Sure.
And or I achieve certain things, or like, okay, maybe I actually really found a the right one finally, mom and dad.
Right, yeah.
30.
We all have that, not just Americans. Everybody has that pressure to tell that story to their parents. Right?
One day I really want to call them. We just like, oh, mom and dad, I finally, okay, I'm not playing this. I think I finally found the girl, right? Or, I finally found that one certain thing, the online that is really gonna make me soar, right, economically, or whatever, something like that. So I have this pressure on me to be like, fuck, I don't have any updates. That's just beyond just day-to-day living. So, and I think that goes into does it not go into the bigger theme of burnout, that like you don't have always the most glorious updates, or just even maybe any updates beyond just like, oh, I made my meals today, I did another video, I did this, or I made my certain this or this, or
Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with, wanting to have that story necessarily. There's nothing wrong with that. Like if you want to say, and I think a part of you legitimately, and all of us, we want to make some money, we want to find a partner, we want to do these kind of normal things in life that, we would think are expected, I guess. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But the problems come in when we're only in like making money or doing something, and to the point that it's out of balance and we're out of touch with what is important to me, what's really meaningful for me in my life. So it's the scenario where, the person becomes a doctor because their dad wants them to be the doctor, right? That's fine. I mean, it's a good option. But what if they can't explore something meaningful in their life because they're so embedded in doing this thing to impress other people? Like making money is normal. Finding a partner is normal. These things are fine. But it can't be removed from what it is that you really want yourself. It has to be true to you, I think. And as long as that's there to a degree, I think we're okay.
Well, let's go back. Let's go off the doctor example, right? So, in some families, especially in Asian societies, but also in Western societies, right? Like if your father and your grandfather and your great grandfather and your great great grandfather were all like doctors, you have this immense pressure on you, right? But even if you didn't have that lineage, like maybe that everybody else in your family is really successful or something, like they're all lawyers, they're all doctors, they're all in this like high paying medical field or whatever. Like what are you supposed to do as somebody who wants to be an artist or be a whatever, something that is going to be really, really shaky at the beginning?
Well, that's the question. That's the dilemma. The way I think about it is it's the dilemma between responsibility, which is about doing the things that are expected, or sometimes the things that you don't really want to do, but they look good on paper, right? And sometimes, we all have responsibilities in life. We all have to pay our rent, okay? So that's about kind of doing things. I take a job. I don't really want to do the job, but it's paying me the rent, paying my rent for it. And then there's the meaning part. The meaning question is the thing that's been forgotten for most of us. And it's, what do I want to do? And this goes back to our conditioning. It's our society we grew up in. It's our schooling. When you're in school, for instance, right? How often do people ask you the question, what are you interested in? What do you want to do with your time? I think school, for instance, is very much like, bell rings, now it's time for you to go here and study X, and now it's time to study Y.
I think they do in elementary school. But
why did it stop?
Maybe middle school, maybe. But once it's high school, it's like, oh, you better be preparing for college, kid, or for that trade, and you better not fuck up or veer off.
What they're training you for is to repress meaning. That's what they're doing. They want you to be a worker, because that's the consumer. It's culture. It stops working. Like, can you imagine if people start thinking for themselves and realize, I don't need that huge flat screen TV or something. Like, there's nothing wrong with a flat screen TV if you can afford it, or if you've got like a side business that you really care about, you shouldn't be putting your money into a flat screen TV. You should probably be putting it into your business or the art project that you want to complete or something. So they need this consumerist thing, because that's a whole other topic of the financial system and everything, and how it operates, and how corrupt it is, and how it leads to all these real emotional, terrible consequences for people. Just this thing. There's a thing that we could talk about maybe real quick. There was a guy, you ever, like, United States, this all started in the United States, but it was, you ever wonder why, like, everybody wants to buy the next big thing? Everyone's obsessed. We were talking earlier about like iPhones or whatever. Everyone wants the new iPhone. Why is everyone obsessed? I have this old iPhone, right? It's fine. I don't need the new iPhone, whatever. But where people like will queue up for hours. Now, if that's a legitimate passion they have, that's fine. But I think a lot of people are doing it because they don't even know why they're doing it. So it's consumerism. And the United States, this thing, it was Edward Bernays, who was a nephew of Freud. He was a psychologist, and he figured out that if you can make people feel like they have everyone has this kind of emptiness inside them, right? So it makes us vulnerable. And if you can make people feel like the product that you're going to consume will fill that emptiness, you want it. you will sacrifice what's meaningful for you in your life to go and buy that iPhone or buy that new car. How many guys do you know personally? And any young men watching this, how many guys do you know bought a car when they shouldn't have? Right? Like they put themselves in debt by actually
years ago,
right.
Not recently.
And that's like you learned then that was not a good move, right?
Years ago.
So, yeah. You don't need the car, guys.
Yeah.
It's not going to help. It's not going to get you the girl that you want to be with. You get her for the wrong reasons, probably. But they make us think that I will be a better person if I buy this product. And that's why all the ads use sexuality and popularity. These images we're bombarded with this to make you buy stuff that you don't need, which makes you more subject to being manipulated by managers, bosses, needing these corporate jobs, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. I will clarify. So it was still a used car, you guys. So, but I still even used cars.
That's good.
Even used cars, right? And here in Paraguay, I literally didn't want to spend over like $2,000 for a car, and I didn't.
It's one of the worst decisions a young man can make.
Especially now. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Some of you, what's the average car payment in the U.S.? I know we're getting into economics, but like $800 just for the car payment alone on average. USD. That was rent like fucking 10 years ago.
It's for something that's depreciating in value every single day.
Depreciating value. But okay. So all right. The other thing that I remember from before that, my buddy Javier said that like. Okay, we're good again. But the other thing that I remember is that he said that his parents, really kind of steered him. They didn't have the best foundation, I guess. Well, I mean, I don't mean to be bringing up too much personal stuff, but he had parents that were divorced, right? When he was relatively young, and he felt that, this is just his words, right? He felt that his parents kind of steered him a different way, right? A way that he felt that he should not have followed. Like my case was that my parents were very solid together their whole lives, and they still are. They did their best and they did well to steer me a certain way, but they're parents that really kind of have really deep ideologies that you just will not agree with. And so anyways, that was a point I was trying to think of earlier. And I don't know if you want to touch on that now. Like, what do you do in that case when, your parents might be really deep, hardcore into religions that you don't believe in, certain real deep ideologies. I'm not talking about touching the surface. I'm talking about really deep stuff. That you might completely be against in your adolescence or young adult years. Well, what do you do about that?
Well, I think you do get to a point in life where, naturally speaking, it's very natural to go through a rebellious phase in life.
Yeah.
So usually young people will have that in their early teens or something, or late teens, where they'll just be rebellious. And that's actually a healthy thing in development for children, young people.
Well, to a point.
But it's not the child's fault, because the degree of rebellion will be, a match to the degree of control that was probably put on the child when they were younger. So parents that are overly controlling of their children and not giving them enough autonomy to make their own decisions in life, that's a problem. That's an overbearing parent. And there's we know about helicopter parenting now. It's like everywhere, where every aspect of children's lives are being sort of micromanaged by people. That can be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But so point again, it's what you can't ignore after a while. It's this sort of inner knowing inside yourself that what I'm doing with my life is not a match for my genuine personality, right? And that will eat away at you for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, you just can't ignore it anymore. And you have to start having those conversations. That's where you have to, and back to our thing about, funnily enough, we are talking about burnout here still, boundaries. It's like, Mom, no, this is my life. This is my decision. I love you, but no. Saying no to people, making our own decisions. And yeah, our parents want...
That's way easier said than done.
It's way easier said than done, but...
Especially when you're a kid.
when you're and I don't blame kids, I don't blame young people for not being able to do it. I give them a lot of encouragement and support because it's incredibly difficult to do, especially with like a young man and his father or something.
Well, I mean, even till this day, like the question that I asked you, like, what do you do in a position where you don't feel like you're achieving certain things, so you feel like you can call home and be like, hey, mom, hey, dad, they go,
Yeah.
you know. So I mean, it does kind of carry through life, though.
Yeah, but that's all. All I would say about that, you're saying, so you're noticing, for instance, that every time there's like some good news or something that you can share, the inputs might be, I'm going to pick up the phone and call home, right? And then you just bring awareness to, what if I just didn't do that?
Yeah.
Right now. What if I paused here for a minute and I don't share that news immediately? What if I sit on it for a couple of days? You don't have to necessarily say I'm going to stop doing that, but you give yourself like a little bit of space, just sit with and watch yourself. Watch what comes up for you emotionally when you're not sharing it.
So to challenge that, like on the other end, like okay, and yeah, you know, I'm getting kind of personal, but on the other end, like, what if your parents expect you to call it at certain increments, every week, every other week, every month, every year? Hopefully it's not years, but
right.
But you know, what do you do in that case of like, well, damn, I know I should be calling at least weekly or bi-weekly, but
that is a problem.
Okay.
Because the word you used there was should.
Okay.
So basically, there's a sense of obligation in phone call. So the reason I'm calling home right now is a sense of obligation.
Okay.
Because if I don't do it, I'm going to feel guilty about it.
Okay.
Right. So that's got to be, you got to look at that. It's like,
okay.
Funnily enough, if you can remove that sense of obligation and realize through questioning your own motives.
Okay.
What if I actually don't need to call home this weekend? What if I can just leave it and not feel guilty about it? Okay. The funny thing is, quite often you'll find out that you actually want to call home.
Oh yeah,
right. That's a weird thing about it. Now sometimes you will find out I'm actually delighted I don't have to call home.
So you guys, I'm kind of at, like, I'm literally like throwing them like kind of personal stuff myself, right?
That's awesome.
But you know, whatever. It's good for this whole conversation. But if I could throw that question to you, have you ever found yourself in that? It's because, so the reason that I'm talking about this is honestly the first time I went to college in the same city I grew up in. I've never been more than, I've always lived I've visited Paraguay for a month at a time here and there. I've never lived here until now. I've never even moved out of the state since I was fucking 3 years old. Since I first went to Wisconsin, right? I was adopted, right? So, you know, this is like my first like time, like, oh my God, being away. So, you know, I know I'm a grown ass man, but at the same time, it's like, this is my first time having this experience that I'm in not only just a few states away, I'm across the planet. You know what I mean? You know, so, okay, so that's me. So just giving more context on me. Yeah, I am asking them kind of personal questions that have to do with this whole conversation about, like, you know, why we get stressed out, burned out, whatever. But if I can ask you, like, I know that you went to college, like, was that in a different city? When was the first age that you experienced that, and how did you deal with it?
Sort of move away from home.
Yeah, and also, like, you know, finding yourself in situations that, you know, man, I got a call, but I don't have the best updates, or man, like, yeah, you know, or I might even have bad updates or something like that.
Yeah.
or whatever, you know.
Yeah, probably avoidance when there were bad updates. Probably just didn't call.
Yeah, well,
that's probably how I dealt with it when I was young. Because I didn't deal with it well when I left home for the first time. I was probably 18 or 19 or something.
Yeah.
And I think it was probably like, you know, all this freedom all at once after being sort of in the school system for so long and didn't handle it well, and drank too much, out partying too much, all these things. Yeah. And it was like definitely a sort of a overcorrection for the control that I had been experiencing in school and things like this, over the rigid structure in my life, and probably reacted against that. But having come here, and I would say, like, I'm 41 now, right? I came here a year ago, so I was 40 when I came here. But I'll tell you,
what was your birthday?
Christmas, around Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
around
Happy
Christmas.
birthday.
Oh yeah, now
I
you're
forgot.
yeah.
God damn it. Okay. Okay.
When
Okay. Okay.
I'll tell you, I might have said it in the last video we had. You think I was like totally relaxed and calm about moving down here? Hell no.
No.
Hell no, I wasn't.
No.
I was. I remember being on the plane even. Actually, I remember booking the tickets to come here, and I was like hovering over the enter button on the keyboard. Right now, I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna press. I'm okay. Confirm. Tickets are bought now. I'm all in. But there was a lot of fear still about it. It's the unknown. It's entering the unknown. That's really, even on the plane, I remember talking to myself saying, okay, I'm feeling this fear. I don't know the culture. I don't know anybody. Didn't know anybody. Don't know the language. Learning the language now. But the fear was there. But I had this sense that well, what if it's okay to be afraid? What if that's actually how you grow? If the fear comes up, and because I kind of knew on the other side of it, right? I'd be a different person. And literally I would be, because I'd be a person who was able to move continents now, whereas before I wasn't. And that's what I did. So it's not about not being afraid. It's about being okay with being afraid, not judging yourself for being afraid about things, especially because it is scary to move to a new place, a new culture you don't know anything about. And I would say that move was a lot scarier than the original time when I left home.
Okay.
But I know there's another part of your question here. You mentioned about updates for families, and feeling like, well, I kind of got to tell them something here. I'm going to call home, right? I got to give them some kind of positive news. I don't know. I think I kind of just stopped doing that at some point. Ultimately, one of the things I do with people is we try and question how we're talking to ourselves. And so if I'm feeling like this pressure to call home and tell them something, well, what am I telling myself? It's I need my parents to think X about me, or I need my family to think X about me. I need them to be impressed with me, or whatever it is. I think those types of thoughts are very big thoughts. They're very big beliefs to carry around in our lives. And what I do is I think, well, let's question that. Is that actually true that I need my family to be impressed with me? Invariably, you'll find it's not true. I actually don't need them to be impressed with me at all. And that's a very, very abbreviated version of what we try and do when we're working with people, right? But ultimately, there's a lot of freedom in questioning everything, questioning all these beliefs that we carry in our minds about. The big one is about impressing other people. Think about that's with family, that's with dating. Right? That shows up in dating, of course, right? Or with friends, or anything, with employers, clients, could be anything. But the freedom is in questioning. Question everything. Question things people told you that you can't do.
Yeah.
Or you're weird for doing. I would question it all.
Everybody thinks I'm weird, man. In the States, here, everywhere, man. But at the same time, you kind of build respect with that weirdness, though. As long as you're being a pioneer, doing something different, going against the fray, because people will look up to you, and people will reach out to you. Maybe if it's not like this, they'll at least reach out to you and be like, "Hey,
that is so true." What you just said. If you ever notice if you don't go out of your way to impress someone, or don't go out of your way to make someone think something good about you, you tend to get more respect.
I know.
And that's okay, that should be an indicator. Maybe there's something to this. Maybe I should stop it's the people please. And we're all subject to we're that's the thing we get from birth when we're very young. We get this. There's a teacher, his name is Anthony DeMello, and he had one thing he said when we're very young kids, we get addicted to something when we're very young. It's like a drug. The drug is approval. It's like, good boy, you did a good job there. You're told really good, do more of that. And we like it. And we associate this performance with love.
Okay.
So it's like, well, okay, approval is the drug I'm addicted to.
Okay.
I can put that down. Right? I don't have to change anything. What if I just put that down? What if I don't need people to approve? Now, we are human, right? We all kind of want to connect with people, you know. But I have found that many of your viewers will know this, that when they're, say, for instance, in dating, if they're looking for approval from the opposite sex, how often has that worked?
Never with me.
Never with me. And I don't think it works. I don't think people respond to it well.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, go around being a jerk, but putting your own sort of needs, showing up at those, being real about who you are instead of trying to impress somebody.
Exactly. But
be nice to somebody because that's fake.
Yeah.
That's not real.
Well, and it sucks, right? Because, especially the dating part of it, because when you're intentional about meeting somebody, you kind of want to start forgetting about what you just said. Like, you kind of, like, okay.
What you mean?
So I've always been the most successful when I've always just been grinding in college. I've been grinding at all my fucking jobs, and especially when I did exposure jobs, which I mean like bartending, that kind of thing, or even now, like this YouTube stuff. Girls are like that; they're impressed with it, whatever. And but when I stop and I'm like, oh wait, hold up, let me focus on this person, or let me focus on this, whatever, and then it starts to kind of veer off a little bit, right? And then
you're right.
And, it kind of goes against what we were always taught, right? Be I guess the best saying would be maybe you're not married yet, but it's the same thing with dating, but happy girlfriend, happy boyfriend, happy wife, happy life, and
there's a guy I know, he puts it as, guys were given the advice for quite a long time now, decades really, going back to the 90s, before the 90s even. It's the meme, I guess, is the sensitive 90s guy who is really sweet all the time, and he's really attuned to what she needs all the time. And the problem is, it's not that he's attuned to her needs. That's not the problem. The problem is he is doing that, but he's not attuned to his own.
Okay.
Right? So he has to come back to, well, how do I feel about the fact that she canceled the date half an hour before we were supposed to meet? The nice guy would say, oh, of course, no problem. He'll hide the fact that he's kind of disappointed about that, right? Which anybody would be. Or he might say he might be too eager to make a new date or to rearrange it or push for it, instead of saying, well, I was disappointed by that.
Yeah, exactly. No, I completely agree with you. But I also wonder how much of media, and not social media, I'm talking about let's back this up, even in the TV shows, the bumbling fool of a husband doing everything that his wife says, or wants him to do, right? And and at the end of the day, they're still together in the show, right? Whatever. I won't start naming them off, but we all know those shows.
She's putting up with him in the show.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah, she stays with him, but she's she stays.
Yeah, and they might whatever, clear stuff up at the end of the episode, but that ain't real life though. I've lived that shit, and at the end, I admit to you guys, man, at the end of my long relationship, I was simping hard as F, dude. I didn't even realize it. And I had a whole nother life before that. When I met the girl I was with for a long time, what time were we at? When I met the girl that I was with for a long time, I was a completely different person. I was incredibly confident, and ironically, I have all that back now. You know what I mean? But that's because what we were just saying, I'm finally focused on me again, right? And I gave way too much of myself to her, and I just started fucking folding, you know what I mean? And just there are certain things I brought up all the time. I just was agreeing with her to avoid arguments, all this crazy stuff, And that's a lot of you guys. I know it's a lot of you guys. You guys admit that to me when you hit me up. You know what I mean? Yeah, walking on eggshells like crazy. All right, so
we should just turn this into a dating podcast.
Yeah, right? Nah, for real. But
it is interesting though.
So I know the last part of the first part, what we were talking about of the whole burnout stuff was kind of geared towards those who leave home. But if you want to kind of close out that burnout topic, and I want to bring it into a more global, like what's going on with the world after this. But if you can close out that burnout topic, what's your best advice for those who feel burned out? I know last time in our first conversation we talked about feeling stuck, which is a cousin of burnout. But
Yeah.
if you want to just like real quick close on that before we start touching on the world.
What about if we give like tips?
Okay.
Right? Because that could be more useful.
Okay.
And in the tips, we'll maybe understand the problem more because we'll describe. But let's say, okay, we have burnout or we're feeling overwhelmed and we're stuck. One of the first things to think about, and this is and this goes to relationships too, but let's keep it about the personal individual working on their goals and experiencing burnout. One of the best psychological concepts you can use is about boundaries.
Okay.
Right? So you got to think about where the boundaries are. So let's say, for instance,
we've talked about this on a personal level too. You know, he's reminding me that about boundaries, and like, you know, I have to remind myself about this too. So,
well, like I know about it, and I still have to be very, very mindful of it, right? So just because you know the concept, then you got to start applying it, right? And that's where it's tricky.
Yeah.
But the boundaries are basically one way I would help explain it would be
not to enter. Okay, I'm gonna totally interrupt you again, but like that's kind of the same thing about being book smart and street smart. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like, the learning about it and the applying it, right? So, I mean, that's what a lot of us Americans say, right? Like book smart and the street smart. So, you know, there's a lot of guys who hit me up with all kinds of crazy ass fucking advice all the time, every single day with like, oh my God, you should do this, right? And I'm just like, yeah, cool, bro. But you don't understand all the complexities of society and the people. So like how good that might work maybe in your mind, but you got to take into consideration all kinds of other stuff when it comes to dating, business, all kinds of stuff. So anyway, going back to what you were saying.
The boundary thing will be, this is the way I describe to people. Let's say there's a goal. Let's say a guy wants to start his own side hustle business, we'll say, right? It's a common thing nowadays, right? And I'll ask him, well, how much time should you be spending on this project? And he'll say, well, a lot of time. How much time? A lot, more than I'm currently giving it. I'm not giving it enough. These are the kind of answers you'll hear. And really, that's a terrible answer. Now, the self-development stuff you're going to hear, a lot of YouTube videos is like, push, no sleep, right? That kind of stuff.
We hear it in the songs, especially hip-hop songs.
Yeah, right.
Grind, hustle, sleep.
Yeah, all that stuff. And that doesn't work. Let me just tell you right now, that does not work.
Very slim number of people who become multimillionaires overnight.
And by the way,
whatever.
But I would say add something to that. It's true, it does work for some individuals. You look closely at those individuals' lives, you're going to find something that is massively out of balance. There'll be some other problem in some area of their life that is not visible publicly, right? So just keep that in mind. If someone is telling you to destroy your health to pursue a goal, okay, right. I would be very careful about that. I want you to go after your goals. I think people should have, men especially, but everyone should have something that they're moving towards in their life. But the question earlier was, but how much time should you be spending on it? And let's say, not enough, I'm not doing enough, I need to spend more. How long is a piece of string is basically what you're saying. Infinite amount of time I should be spending on this project. And that's basically saying, this project is bigger than me. It's more important than I am, right? The goal is doing you at that point. You're not doing the goal. It's in charge. It's determining how long it's going to be, how big it is. So the first thing you're going to do is realize, okay, this is an important goal I want to work on. How can I keep it contained? How can I minimize it? Now, that's something you can be consistent in. But if it's this huge thing, or worse, an open-ended thing where you can't see the end of it potentially because you haven't given that promise yourself about, a boundary with it, it's going to overwhelm your nervous system and you're going to start feeling resentment towards it. You're going to start not wanting to do it. So there's another great book, actually, I read it there a few months ago. It's one of the few books I tell people to read. It's called The One Thing. There's another book you should read too. It's by a guy called Neil Fiore. It's called The Now Habit, for anyone struggling with this sort of burnout, procrastination stuff. And my book too. It's a good book. But it's all about, it's not this, it's this. Minimize, make it small, make it manageable, and make it so that you can be consistent in it and you can engage with it in an enjoyable way where you're not exhausting yourself. Right? Because the trick to all of this isn't about pushing yourself, it's about being consistent. And that's all it is. It's just keep showing up for yourself. Do it in a way that's sustainable and enjoyable. Right? That's huge.
You know, when we first got together, I would have had like 500 subscribers. That's one of the things he told me, like, you know, personally, but also in the last video, like, stay consistent, man.
Yeah.
And,
do a little.
I've tried my best to.
Yeah. And here we are. You're nearly at what, 1,000?
Yeah. And
maybe at 1,000.
Yeah. You know, I have a weird niche, man. I know I do. I have there's only so many people who care about Paraguay. There's only so many people who care about my life. There's only so many people.
Soon, probably more.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's almost every single day people hit me up, literally.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, so you know, man, this has been a good conversation, like always. But so if we can bring this into more, all right, the last 10 minutes that we have. Or so, let's recognize the problems I want to recognize the problems in Ireland, right? Because I was shocked when I saw a certain documentary that like 70% of people in Ireland 30 and below want to get out of Ireland, right? So, yeah, it was like 7 out of 10.
Wow.
Yeah, they want to get out of Ireland for mostly cost of living. There's some other cultural things too, but like, and I mean, you guys have an even worse housing crisis compared to like, you know, your purchasing power, etc. Than even America or even Canada, I believe.
Yeah.
Like, I think you might be one of the worst in the world when it comes to affordability for housing.
Yeah.
And so like young people see that, right? And you know, I'll probably turn this into a short, but you know, it blows my mind because, I mean, it was only what 10, 15 years ago, everybody wanted to move to Ireland because it was at least reasonably priced. You guys had a healthy society.
Sure.
It was relatively safe, and now everybody wants to get out. I mean, in that quick of a time, it's just like, you know, it flipped. And
well, I'm here.
Yeah, well,
so I definitely found some issues, I guess I could say that, but I agree. I mean, those numbers tell a story.
Yeah,
and I bet you've probably noticed it too in America, and probably everywhere. Really, there is a generational miscommunication.
Yeah,
older generations do not understand what the
and they're set with their houses and their pensions. And whatever else, you know.
Yeah, and they just don't get it because it's in everything. It's like they don't understand how dating has changed, how relationships have changed. They don't understand. And I would give them a bit of a break on it because I think what's actually happened, in my opinion, is that really the main culprit for this whole thing has been gradual. Now, inflation has gotten a lot worse in the last few years, and I think probably it's going to continue to get bad. But that has been creeping in there for the last couple of decades, and gradually the cost of living goes up and up and up. It's more and more expensive every year to buy a home. I was talking to someone in Ireland the other day. They want to build a pretty modest house for 3 children. 450,000 euros.
Yeah,
to build a house. Now, there is no way that is sustainable for people. Young people cannot afford that. That's insane.
Well, okay, so
they can, but they're going to be in huge debt. And it's going to be a huge burden.
So people who live in, I guess, what would you call it, the mainland of Europe, or stateside in the U.S., or even Canada for that matter, like a lot of us, right? We might start looking for how different prices for houses in different states or provinces in Canada or wherever else in Europe that you may be able to live through. But Ireland's a fucking island of what are you guys, like 10 million at best?
Oh no, there's only like God, I'm on the spot here. I think it's like 6 million.
Oh, okay. It actually is more like Paraguay.
Including
Actually, you're
Northern
right.
Ireland. Yeah.
You're right. It's
Yeah.
it's actually more of like a Paraguay population.
Hmm.
So there's nowhere else to move, and like there's only that limited amount. And if it's unaffordable, then I understand better why 7 out of 10, which is mind blowing, of like younger people want to get out of Ireland. I understand that better because everybody in the U.S. is like, okay, well, I'll just go to Tennessee, or I'll just go to wherever, or whatever, one of the Carolinas or Virginias or something like that. But like, if you're in Ireland, you don't have that option. You need to get out of Ireland if it's $450,000 and you're not becoming something.
I think I would say even more so than Ireland. Ireland has a lot of problems, and I think they're getting worse. But I would say more so than Ireland is the UK. I don't know what the numbers are on the UK that you mentioned about Ireland, but I would imagine they're worse.
Oh, it's up there. The UK contact me a lot.
Yeah. I've noticed a few people from the UK moving here.
Yeah.
Even just meeting them around.
It's more of a little bit more recent actually than well, again, my channel has been growing, but still, like, it's been more prevalent, at least in my eyes, that the UK people want to get the fuck out.
I a lot of gratitude for Paraguay. I mean,
yeah,
they're giving people who want to come here and be respectful to the Paraguayan culture and integrate in. They're giving people options, and I think options are fantastic. We need. If it was in a relationship, and you're having those issues, what do? You try and find alternatives. But we find ourselves being sort of married to the country we're born in. Well, maybe you can get a divorce, or maybe you get a separation for a while. It is tragic in a way because we leave our homeland and we have that connection to where we were born and the people there. Of course, we have. They'll never stop. And that is a difficult thing about moving, is that you lose touch with those people to a degree. But if you're in, dare I say, an abusive relationship, wouldn't it make sense to kind of look around for alternatives? I mean, that's one way of thinking about it. If you use that metaphor of where you live is like a marriage, people get divorced, people move on, and maybe that's healthy for those places too. I mean, I know I've heard people criticize people who leave, saying that they're abandoning the country, but I don't see it like that. I think if anything, it's going to help those countries realize maybe we're doing something that isn't really working here.
Yeah.
Maybe we have to kind of reevaluate, like the political system in Ireland. I know we're getting into political stuff here, but me and you were talking briefly about like the United States and how we're both kind of agreeing that most people are kind of fed up with the Democrat-Republican thing. And I think most people are. And I think in Ireland, people are just fed up with the same politicians that come on and say the same thing, and nothing really changes.
Yeah.
So people have to start thinking outside of political solutions for answers, for problems. And there are other solutions. There are personal solutions. You can move, you can, I think it's your life, like wasting your life debating politics. Me, it's like, okay, it's interesting. Maybe it's valid to a degree, but if your whole answer for fixing life's problems are waiting on politicians to fix them, that to me is a very risky strategy.
Yeah, guys. And yeah, going right off of that, I think it might have, maybe in the 60s when you had the Kennedys or the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King, maybe Malcolm X that you moved in, but everybody after that don't give a shit, at least in American politics, right? But, it's just been downhill for 50 plus years in America. I don't know about Ireland, but it's all around the world. It's the same thing. Greed has gone up.
Money was right. They wouldn't need to do that. There wouldn't be this high inflation. People would have homes. There'd be options for people. And I think, I don't know, maybe crypto, maybe Bitcoin is a part of the solution, maybe things like this. I would definitely have more faith in those types of solutions than waiting for politicians to fix this. Because most of the politicians have huge amounts of real estate. They're not. That's in Ireland they do. They're like waiting for politicians to do something about house prices. When the last thing a lot of these politicians want are for house prices to come down because they own multiple houses.
True.
So I mean, I definitely would not be waiting for that to change things. So find the solution yourself, guys. Work on yourself, and that's what I've been trying to do.
Yes.
I advise people to focus the lion's share. Maybe watch politics a little, stay informed, but don't make it your identity. Don't make it your whole life.
True. Okay. At some point in this last part of this conversation, I think my mic might have went, you guys, but we got most of this.
We just explained the whole secret to everything there. You might have missed it if that the microphone went.
Exactly. No, but anyways, yeah, exactly. Point is that nothing's improving, especially in your home countries, in your Western countries. He's here in Paraguay. I'm here in Paraguay. We're on a Paraguayan rooftop here in Asunción. All right.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts are that fuck everything that's going on in your country. Doesn't matter. You have to save yourself individually. If you're feeling burnout, your biggest advice was minimize what you can control, essentially. Focus on that. Don't over stress yourself, what you were telling me, essentially. Like, I feel a lot of pressure to give certain updates to people, right? Especially family and friends every now and then. And I don't always have the glorious updates beyond what you guys see on my videos and stuff, which I consider those good updates. I'm literally still here producing stuff. But even if you're not a producer, even if you're back in your home countries and you're still dreaming of living a life abroad, well, here's two regular ass people that are doing it. That's a hell of a thing. And honestly, I probably never would have even met an Irishman, unless he would have showed up at some bar I was working at or some company I was working at back in the States, which would have been like one in a fucking million chance. But we got connected through the internet and also through YouTube, and we're collaborating, but we're also having important conversations with you guys. He's a solid ass dude. You guys can see that, and a lot of insight. Go follow his channel, Dr. David Maloney. I'll put his link description down below for sure. Also good, check out our first video as well. We talked about similar stuff, but not the same exact stuff. And yeah, otherwise we're gonna clear it out of here unless you have some very last things to say.
All I will say is, this guy puts in the work, and if you're watching this or you watch his video, you haven't subscribed yet, click, it's free. Just click the subscribe on the channel. Because a lot of people watch videos on YouTube and they don't subscribe to watching. So you're close to 1,000. I think bigger and better things to come to you. And keep going, keep being consistent with it. And that applies to all of us. Don't overwhelm ourselves, but just try and be consistent.
Yeah.
Doing the small things that are important works. And over time it works. So that's what I would say.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. I would shake his hand right now, but I literally got a phone in my hand. I'll shake his hand after this, but yeah, you guys, we became good friends, really. Like, I had respect for his work, what he does, that he's here in Paraguay, but also, on a personal level, like, I really vibe with this dude, and, we're good friends, and, we'll keep doing these videos every now and then, for sure, because I'm just a whatever, but he gives a little bit more of a professional take on certain things. Especially some of the things that we're feeling that keep us not pursuing our dreams. So, anyways, Ryan Aranda, My Best Life on Hawaii, Dr. David Maloney, go to his channel, hit subscribe like you just said, shameless plug, and to his channel as well. Find more out about why us humans do the things we do, right? Psychotherapy, and psychology, and all that. Okay, guys, we're out of here. See you later. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you stuck to the end, and we'll see you later, guys.
Take care.
Bye.